and welcome to another episode. In today's episode, I am going to be talking about CSS transitions. But before we get started, if you're new to my channel, make sure to hit that subscribe button. If you find this video useful, share it with someone else. And if you like this video, don't forget to give me a thumbs up. Also, if you want to support my channel, I'm going to leave my PayPal link in the description below. Okay, so let's get started. So to get started with CSS transitions, I need you guys to open the same website we've been using so far, which is w3schools.com. You're going to jump into the CSS section and scroll all the way down to CSS Advanced and go to the CSS transition option here. Also, you need to have open the website we've been coding so far and the code we have been using. I am going to clear out the division we created yesterday and also all the code we type in on HTML. By doing that, I'm clearing my website and boom, now we have a blank web page. So what is a CSS transition? Let's read a little bit. CSS transitions allows you to change a property value smoothly over a given duration. So if we go ahead and we hover over this option right here, you see how this is transitioning. That's an effect. So that is what a transition is. Now you have few properties that you can use with transition. The main one is transition, which is the one we're going to take a look at today. You have then transition delay. I'm also going to explain that one. You have transition duration, you have transition property, transition timing function. So you have all those. Now, how can you use the transitions here in your website? So to create a transition effect, you must specify two things. The first thing that you need to specify is the property that you want to add an effect to. So whether you want to add the effect to a width, to a height, whatever property you want to apply it to, you need to specify that in your code. And also you need to specify the time, the duration, in other words, of the effect. 1 second, 2 seconds, 5 minutes, you name them, right? So if the duration part is not specified, the transition will have no effect because the default value obviously will be 0. Okay, so here we see an example in how the code looks like. You have a division, then the division has the normal coding, a width, height, and a background color. Then the transition is with the width of 2 seconds, okay? So that's the first thing you have to specify, right? First, you have to specify the transition with the property and the duration. Next thing you have to do is go ahead and use a pseudo class like hover. Then you go ahead and you will tell your code, hey, when we hover over this, I want the width to be 300 pixels. And one more thing you can do, it's apply everything actually here more than once. You can do apply certain transition to the width, and on the same line of code, you can apply some transition effect to the height. So let's take a look at this example and I'll show it to you as well in our code. Let's click here where it says try it yourself. Okay, first thing we're going to do is copy the body section here. So I'm going to copy the division, the paragraphs, etc. And we're going to paste this into our index file. Now I'm going to hit save. Going back to our code, let's hit refresh. Okay, perfect. So here we have the transition. So we have the H1 paragraph and the division. Next thing we're going to do is start applying the style to this. So let me go ahead and copy the first portion, because you're already familiar with this. So here we are using a width, a height, and a background color of red. Now I am going to remove the transition effect just for now so you can see how this looks like. I already saved it. Now let's hit refresh. So we have a red box. That's the division we just created there. Now the next thing we are going to do is apply the transition. We want the transition to have a duration of 2 seconds for the width, and the height will be 4 seconds. Okay, so I'm going to hit save here and we're going to hit refresh. Now, right now, nothing is happening because we haven't added a specific state for this or something that will trigger this to happen, right? So how can you see that effect moving on, this effect that we just set up in here? Well, this is very simple. All you have to do is use a pseudo class. And the pseudo class in this example will be the hover state. So we're going to copy this and we're going to paste it here. So what we are saying to our code right now is that when we hover over this, the transition effect that the division will have will be the width in 2 seconds transforming itself to 300 pixels. And also the height in 4 seconds will transform to 300 pixels as well. So let's take a look at the example. I'm going to hit save now. Going back to our code, let's hit refresh. Now let's hover over the division. And boom. You see how now that is actually changing, and it has 300 and 300 pixels width and height. The width happens faster and the height happens slower because we added the width for 2 seconds and then the height a little bit longer for 4 seconds. So that's exactly how you will use the transition effect here. So let me explain you something else. So you can specify the speed curve of the transition. And for that, you will use the transition timing function. This property will specify the speed curve of the transition effect. And here you can apply the following values. You can apply ease, linear, ease in, ease out, ease in and out, and then the cubic one. So I'm going to show you this 4, and then you can go ahead and actually play around. Well, actually the 5 of this, of the example, and then you can play around with the last one here. So we're going to hit here where it says try it yourself. Let me clean out my code here. And I'm going also to clean out the HTML section. Hit and save them both, and let's hit refresh. Boom. Now I have it clean. Okay, so we're going to copy the whole entire HTML section, paste it here. Let's hit save and let's make sure it's been applied. Okay, perfect. So here you have the divisions. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 divisions. Right now we have not applied a style to them, so let's style them. Okay, so to all divisions, we are going to give the following style. A width of 100 pixels, a height of 100 pixels. They all will have a background of red, and the transition will be only to the width of 2 seconds. Okay, you can add height if you want, but here we will follow the example, just a width of 2 seconds of a duration. So let's hit save. Going back to our code, let's hit refresh. And boom, there you go. So now, in order for you to see what each value will do, the one that we were talking about right now, we are going to code the following. All of them have different IDs here. As you can see, first division has an ID of div 1, div 2, div 3, div 4, div 5, just so you can see each value, what does it do to your code, okay? And just a quick heads up, you're not going to see much of a difference because right now we are only applying a transition effect of width of 2 seconds, but you can feel free to play around with each one of them and actually change a little bit the code and height and everything else so that you can see some other effects, okay? Right now we will just follow along with the example here. So I'm going to hit save, going back to our code, let's hit, but before I hit refresh, take a look. I'm hovering over them and nothing is happening, okay? So I'm going to hit refresh now. Now, if I go ahead and I hit refresh, you won't see anything happening yet because I haven't added the hover effect. All I did is added the transition timing function to each one of them. So the next thing we want to do is to add the hover state. So let's do that. Okay, and we're going to say to all divisions, when we hover over them, we want the width to change to 300 pixels. Okay, so let's do that. Let's hit save. Now when I go ahead and I hit refresh, you will see when I hover over them, each one will change. So if I click on this one, well, if I hover over this one, you see how now this one is changing? So this is the linear value. Now this is the ease value. It's a little bit faster. Now this is ease in. Okay, now this is ease out. And then this one is ease in and out. So those are the different values that you can also use with the transition timing function. So I hope that so far this is being clear to you. If it's not, remember that you can always leave your questions in the comment section below so I can check them out and help you out later on. Okay, so moving on, there's another thing that I want to talk about here, and it's the delay, the transition delay. This is important for you to know because sometimes we don't want people to see a transition right away when they hover over something. We want them sometimes just to stay or have the mouse maybe a second or two over the element that we want to transition. And then the delay property will help you with that, the transition delay. So again, let's go ahead and let's simply clean our code here, everything, and let's go ahead and take a look at the example so you see exactly what this is going to do to your code. Okay, so let's hit refresh. Now going back to transitions here, we are going to see the example, and this will have a delay of a second. So again, let's just simply, I'm going to simply copy the division, not going to make this that complicated. So let's just add a division there, hit save, refresh, there we go. And now let's apply some style to the division, and then we're going to apply the delay to it. Okay, so here we have a width of 100, height of 100 pixels, background color red. The transition will be the width. You will see the width change for 3 seconds. Now the transition will have a delay of 1 second, meaning that when we hover over it, it's not going to happen right away. The code will wait at least a second in order for us to see the change. And in fact, if you want, I can change this to 2 seconds so you can see this better. And then obviously this is going to happen when we hover over our element. So let's save this. Going back to our code, let's hit refresh. So that's the division. Now if I hover over it, you see how not right away something is happening. I have to leave the mouse there for at least 2 seconds, and then you will see the transition effect. So that's what transition delay does. That's going to be very useful for you when we are coding your websites later on. Okay, one more thing that I want to show you in this tutorial today, and that'll be applying transition with yesterday's chapter, which is the transformation property. Okay, this way you're going to be able to transform an element in 2D or a 3D form. So let's go ahead and go right into this and see the code and hit here where it says try it yourself. So we're going to combine the transition effect with the transform. Okay, so let's do the following. We have a division already there, so I'm not going to change my HTML code. I'll just leave the simple division we've added. And we already have some style to the division. We have a width of 100, height of 100 pixels. Then you have a background of red. And here under the transition, as you can see now, here is where the difference is happening. We're going to remove the transition delay, by the way. We're just going to leave the transition. So we're applying a width of 2 seconds. Then we're going to apply also a height of 2 seconds. Well, actually the height, the width I have at 3 seconds. Let's do 2 seconds in both instead of 3. Okay, so I'm going to change this to 2. Then in addition to this, we are specifying that this is going to happen to also the transform property, and this will be 2 seconds as well. Transform 2 seconds. Okay, remember property and duration. That's how we use the transition effect. Okay, so I'm going to hit save on that. Then the next thing we are going to do is that when we hover over this, we are going to apply the changes we want to see. So the width will be 300 pixels. The height is going to be 300 pixels. And now we're going to specify the transformation we want to see here. And we're going to make this rotate as the example 180 degrees. Okay, so let's hit save. Let's hit refresh. And now when I hover over it, boom, this has the transition. This is transforming itself, and actually it has a transition with a width of 300 pixels, a height of 300 pixels, and it's rotating the element to 180 degrees, as you can see in the example I just showed you. Okay, so that's how transition will work if you combine them with the transform property as well. So I hope that you have learned a lot in today's episode. If you want to go ahead and read a little bit more about this, go into W3 Schools and practice with the exercises you'll see here. You have 5 exercises for this tutorial so that you can go ahead and actually learn more about the transition effect. And also remember, if you have questions, leave them in the comment section below. Whenever I can, I will check them out and I will make sure to reply to those. So that was it for this video, everyone. I hope you liked it. If you did, remember to leave me a thumbs up. That really helps my channel. And if you're new to this channel, make sure to hit that subscribe button. That way you will get notified every time that I am uploading a video. Also remember that you can always ask Lixi. Bye everyone, and see you again in the next episode.